Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. One of the hardest things you'll ever do in life is work on yourself. I'm not talking about getting a haircut or dressing sharp. I mean the real work, the kind of work that don't show up on Instagram. The kind of work that keeps you up at night asking yourself, is this the life I'm supposed to be living? See, real self-work ain't pretty. It's not always inspirational quotes and playlists. Sometimes it's looking in the mirror and realizing you the one holding you back. Start with complete honesty about where you are and what's not working. That's the foundation of every real transformation. Most people skip this step. They jump straight to goals, affirmations, and vision boards without ever facing the truth. But the truth is, if you lie to yourself, you'll stay stuck in the same cycle, no matter how many motivational videos you watch or how many books you read. Honesty is uncomfortable. It makes you squirm. It makes you confront the parts of your life that you've been trying to ignore for years. But that discomfort is where the work begins. You have to be willing to sit down with yourself, no distractions, and ask the hard questions. What habits are destroying your progress? What choices are keeping you broke, tired, uninspired? What toxic relationships are draining your energy? And maybe most importantly, what lies have you been telling yourself just to get through the day? You can't fix what you won't face. You can't change what you keep pretending is fine. Real self-improvement starts when you stop blaming everything and everyone else for your situation and start owning your part in it. That's not about guilt, it's about power. Because the moment you say, this is on me, is the moment you take control back. You stop being a victim of circumstance and become the architect of your future. But none of that happens if you're not brutally honest about where you're starting from. People want to be successful, but they don't want to admit they're lazy. They want to be confident, but they don't want to admit they're insecure. They want love, but they don't want to admit they're emotionally unavailable. See, every version of your best self begins with a version of you who had the courage to admit they weren't there yet. That kind of honesty doesn't come easy. It takes courage to look at your reflection and say, this ain't who I'm supposed to be. It takes strength to admit that you've let yourself down. But what people don't understand is that admitting your flaws is not weakness, it's strength. It's the first brick in building something better. When you lie to yourself, you delay your healing, you prolong your pain. You cover a bullet wound with a Band-Aid and then wonder why it keeps bleeding. Honesty tears off the Band-Aid. It exposes the wound so it can heal for real. And sometimes honesty means realizing you've been holding on to dreams that don't even belong to you. Maybe you've been chasing a career because it sounds impressive, not because it fulfills you. Maybe you've been pretending to be someone you're not just to fit in. Maybe your whole life has been built around proving something to someone who doesn't even care. That's the kind of honesty that breaks you down, but only so you can build yourself back up, this time with intention. Self-work isn't about pretending you have it all together. It's about being real enough to say, I'm not okay, but I want to be better. It's about identifying the behaviors that are keeping you small and replacing them with habits that make you grow. Once you've been honest with yourself, everything changes. You stop chasing shortcuts. You stop wasting time on distractions. You get clear, you get focused. You stop waiting for the perfect time and you start with the truth. And the truth might hurt, but it will also set you free. Free to evolve, free to improve, free to become the version of yourself that's been buried under years of denial, excuses, and fear. But none of that freedom comes until you face the facts, until you look at your life and say, this is not working. And I'm not gonna pretend anymore, because pretending is easy. Growth is hard, but only one of them will change your life. Commit to self-discipline even when no one is watching. That's the real test of growth. Anybody can act like they're grinding when there's applause, validation, or some form of recognition involved. But the real winners are made in silence, in moments when no one's clapping, no one's noticing, and no one even knows what you're up to. Self-discipline means doing what's right, what's necessary, and what moves you forward, even when you're tired, unmotivated, and tempted to give up. It's the power to show up for yourself without needing external pressure. Because the truth is, if you only work when someone's watching, you're not building character, you're building a performance. Discipline is not about hype. It's not about emotion. It's about decisions repeated daily, regardless of how you feel. Success is never the result of one big moment. It's always the result of consistent effort. And consistency is only possible through discipline. People think motivation is the key, but motivation is unpredictable. It comes and goes. It depends on mood, energy, even weather sometimes. But discipline is a decision. You don't wait for it. You choose it. When you decide to be disciplined, you start controlling your actions instead of letting your emotions control you. You stop needing someone to push you because you become your own driver. You develop the muscle of self-command, and like any muscle, it grows through repetition and resistance. The more you push against laziness, distraction, and excuses, the stronger your willpower becomes. Self-discipline is waking up when the alarm goes off, not when you feel like it. It's choosing the healthier meal, the longer route, the tougher challenge. It's writing that page, taking that step, finishing that workout, especially on the days you don't want to. That's when it matters most. Because those little wins stack up. And while it may not look like much in the beginning, those daily acts of discipline create momentum. They create confidence. They prove to you that you are capable of honoring your word, that your goals matter more than your comfort. And once you start building that internal respect, everything else changes. You stop quitting. You stop negotiating with laziness. You stop breaking promises to yourself. There's power in showing up consistently, not because someone told you to, but because you told yourself to. Because your vision is too important to ignore. Because you've been to the bottom and you're not going back. Because the version of you that you're trying to become requires a higher standard. And that standard must be enforced daily through discipline. Nobody else is going to hand it to you. Nobody is coming to save you. And that's not a sad truth, that's an empowering one. Because it means you have the ability to shift your reality. But that shift starts with your habits. It starts with what you do in private, in your room, at your desk, in the gym, on those early mornings, during those late nights when you're reading, learning, grinding. That's where greatness is built. It's built when you say no to the easy route and yes to the hard path that leads to growth. Self-discipline won't always feel good. Sometimes it'll feel like punishment. But in time, you'll realize it was the highest form of self-love. Because when you discipline yourself, you give your future self options. You give your dreams structure. You give your goals protection. And that kind of freedom only comes through structure. The world rewards people who can lead themselves, who can manage their impulses, who don't wait to feel right to do right. That's the kind of person who doesn't just talk about change, they become the change. And the secret to that transformation is simple. Commit to self-discipline, especially when no one's watching, especially when no one will ever know you did it. Because at the end of the day, the person you become in private is the person the world will eventually see in public. Surround yourself with people who elevate your thinking and challenge your comfort. The company you keep has the power to shape your beliefs, influence your decisions, and ultimately determine your direction in life. If you spend your time around people who complain, settle, and avoid growth, that energy is going to rub off on you. It doesn't matter how motivated you are. If the people